the Nobody's Famous podcast. All right, guys, and we are back again on the Nobody's Famous podcast. We have an amazing guest with us today. Through whatever way we ended up meeting with each other, we haven't actually met in person, but through whatever way, we're here now making this show happen with another fellow podcaster, by the way, the first of its kind on the Nobody's Famous podcast, with the one and only Shereen from Spark with Shereen. How are you?
I'm doing great. What a wonderful intro. You've made my evening.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And I'll make your evening even more by saying you have a very, so I've done this once before in the show. I've told this to some people, but you have a laugh that when you laugh, you really feel that it's genuine, that you are laughing at a joke or you're laughing at something. So you have one of those. You have one of those laughs, which is great. So it doesn't sound like a fake laugh, unless you're very good.
Thank you. That sounds very kind. People generally say I'm pretty smiley. So even if I'm not laughing at something, half the time when I talk, I follow it up with a ha 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 or something of the sort. Yeah.
It's either you're very good at fake laughing. There we go. See, it's awesome.
So actually, let me tell you what I do in the workplace. And my colleagues spotted this, not me. So apparently I'm super bossy. Mm-hmm. And they say, Shereen, you think you can get away with bossing people around because once you make a command, you follow it up with a ha ha ha, thinking it's cute. And people then just do it for you.
Awesome. That is an amazing
something that does come in handy.
That's an amazing tip, I think. So for anyone who's listening,
for girls, I don't know if guys can pull that off.
Maybe we should guys should try it. So should try it. Maybe that's the house will make it work that way. But awesome. Like you have an amazing laugh. Either you're really good at fake laughing, okay, or it's just a genuine laugh. So you know when somebody's making a joke and then you laugh, it really gives like the person feels they put that was
well. Thank
was a
you.
good joke.
Let's assume it's the latter.
For sure. Okay, I want to start this off by reading about you in the third person, what you wrote to me. Okay, I just want to read what you wrote to me because what you wrote was very well written. I really like the first part of what you wrote, and you said, okay, Shereen is very passionate about fostering startup ecosystems and empowering entrepreneurship education. She believes that technology has the power to transform and improve people's lives, and entrepreneurs will make that happen. There's a lot happening in these two sentences. There's a lot that's happening. And I want to start by asking my first question for you is to first of all, please forgive me when I ask questions about accelerators, because I used to be really into this industry and I was like really into startups and stuff, but that's not me anymore. Like I like tech a lot, so I'm really into tech, but I don't keep up with startup news. But let's start by.
If you follow Spark with Shereen, you'll be up to date with startup news.
Oh yeah, I do. There's the plug. But I wanted to ask you, like, this belief that you have. So there's two questions. The first one is this belief that you have. About that the technology has the power to transform and improve. Where'd you get that from? Is it from your experience, or is this an innate feeling that you kind of live by?
You've caught me in a position because though I believe it, I do think people can also live happy, fulfilling lives without technology if they're, let's say, ignorant of the fact that it's there. See, if I kind of was to build a pyramid of needs, I would put wellness and health and fitness way more, let's say, I would give them more importance than one's exposure to technology. But given that I work with tech startups, I see how they can help improve people's lives. So though I wouldn't rank it as the most important thing someone needs to have exposure to live a good life, it definitely is a nice to have that if you have access to, the return is exponentially more.
I think it's a very fine line that we tread here. And I tell you, on the show, we're no shy of asking, like, some tough questions. But I understand what you meant by saying, like, there's, between, you're kind of like in between the two. Because there's that general notion that people say, technology is, it's amazing, it's going to get us to where we need to be, and imagine how the world was before. Can you imagine a world without phones, a world without the internet, all that kind of stuff? But at the same time, where technology is supposed to bring us closer together, it really just makes us hate each other more, or drift us apart, and really creates spaces for people to add this, a lot of misinformation, which is the opposite, and a lot of bad things.
Oh, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you there. In fact, I think with anything in the world, self-discipline is the key to making sure one utilizes what they're exposed to well. Let's take food. And by the way, I'm obsessed with food and fitness and health, and I'm going to keep
Awesome.
referencing
Awesome.
these types of
Because, yeah,
examples.
because I love food. I'm not into fitness, but I love food.
All
So we'll see.
right, food. So well-grown, organic, free-range natural food is very good for the human body. Processed food is not. Very similar with technology. Technology that is consumed mindfully in moderate doses can very much help improve someone's life. Whereas if you overdo it, like you may overdo, let's say, unprocessed food, that's when you tread that line and it actually starts to harm you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think more so with food, balance is important, because what you put in your body is you. That's you are what you eat, and whatever you put in your body, you only have one body. So if you get rid of that, that's it. And I think with technology, the other side of it is, it's so easy to get caught up in this whole, like, I saw the other day, I was watching something about the doom scrolling, and going into like all these different things, and being so attached to, I mean, see, it's weird for me to say that, because I'm a geek, and like technology has always been a part of my life. Like I grew up in the age of the internet, so the keyboard is like supernatural for me. So for me, it's very hard to kind of play the other side and say, not too much. I mean, that's technically my life. I'm a geek, I'm a gamer. I spend a lot of time on my computer. I use technology in, to make my life a bit easier. So it's hard for me to say, be completely minimal and just, shut everything off. But that's I think what people should do, if not completely, but every once in a while.
The kind of technology that I specifically think really makes a difference is healthcare. So when I was, I think, either 17 or 18, I had my appendix removed. And I remember thinking, if it wasn't for modern day technology, and mind you, it's not the most advanced of tech. We're talking like equipment a doctor needs to perform an operation. If these tools weren't available, I would have died. I would have died, having not surpassed my teenage years. So at bare minimum, I think that there's benefit that technology brings to the world. Where I think technology is treading rough waters is when it comes to consumer exposure of things like social media. So that actually a lot of research is put into developing your phone to make sure that it's addictive and that you don't put it down. Even the simple, what's the word when your phone buzzes and makes a noise?
Yeah, the vibration.
The vibration, the notes, all that is meant to actually get you hooked and addicted. Just today, actually, I was getting message after message after message. And though my phone's on silent, it was vibrating and buzzing. And instead of succumbing to my reward mechanism where I just pick up my phone, I've actually conditioned myself to see it as a stressor. So I don't look at my phone all day. I look at it a few times in the day. And when I notice it buzzing a little bit too much, I'll actually go put it on the other side of the room. So that's what I did today. My phone just happened to be vibrating a little bit too much. And I was like, nope, this is not healthy for me. And I went and I put it in my purse in the corner of my office.
Well, I think that's a very good thing that you do because you are quite disciplined, and I think it's very good advice for people. Like, for me, with work, it's kind of difficult for me not to, and even in normal days, especially even with the lockdown now, it's difficult for people to kind of, get away from that because they either you're home more than often, and social media, or especially like your phone, is the gateway to the outside world. Like, unfortunately, it's the phone. For me, I'm a bit more old school. I'll get lost in my computer, and I'll be there, and I'll be focusing on one thing while still double screening with my phone and triple screening Netflix, for example, right? So it's very much,
That's
that's
so
kind of the.
stimulating to your mind.
I mean,
One thing
it's
at a time.
yeah. Like, it's a multitask thing, maybe, but it's for very much. I'm very much into, let's say, the one thing, which is the PC. But you raise a very important point, and it's discipline, and it's difficult. It's difficult for people to do. You
You
have
know,
a.
Ali, where's one of my favorite places in the world? The gym. And that's because when you're working out, like doing a real workout, not, faffing around, in a real workout, you are not focused on anything but the workout.
Mhm.
Nothing in the world matters but finishing that workout. And it is the most liberating thing to have only one thing to worry about in the next half an hour.
Oh yeah.
Phones away, worries aside,
Awesome. And
it's
you know
the
what?
best stress reliever
It
to
is,
me.
it is, it is. You're absolutely right. I completely agree. For me, it's a show like this. For me, I am currently like focusing just on the show. And for
Well,
me,
thank you for focusing your
yeah, it's like
attention to
I'll be
me.
double screening right now. It's like definitely I would never do that. It's like while I have like
You
three
know, you'd
screens.
be surprised. So I've moderated a few virtual events in the last few months where the conference organizers will tell me, okay, have your phone next to you. We're going to text you updates, or, they'll like
Okay.
send updates in the chat in Zoom. And I don't like that because I don't want to have my phone open in front of me. I want to engage in the conversation, particularly if you're moderating. You can't zone out. There's no room for
There's no
error.
way you
You need
can.
to be with the guests. But people don't understand that.
It's look again, it's like you said, there's a very much on the other side. It's like, oh, we have this amazing tech, we have this way of communicating, let's use it to the max. And
Mm.
then you have the other side where it's like you can separate between, this tech is for this time, and then when I am using tech or something, I don't have to be, like focusing on all these other things. And it's just a way of, like, for me, I'm doing the show with you now. That's the thing that I'm focusing on. Okay, I have a screen in front of me. Maybe I want to check something. I might be interested in asking you. But at the same time, like, the whole day is like, don't forget, you have a show at 8. You have a show at 8. You have a show at 9:30.
9:30.
Yeah,
9:30.
yeah, I thought it was at 9. I thought it was at 9. I mixed
Oh,
up
you
all
thought
my
8,
shows.
then 9, then 9:30?
No, I actually had a show at 8:30.
Oh, okay, okay.
Then when I saw it, I was like, it's at 8:30. And then I looked, I told the guys, let's do it at 8. Then when you told me 9:30, I was like, no wonder I made that one at 8:30, because it was supposed to be an hour apart. So I was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
so
Look
for
at you,
me,
busy bee, chatting
so
to
busy,
people.
so busy. So for me, like, I completely agree with you that really, really you should, whatever it is you're doing, definitely, focus on it. And I'm jealous that, you can. I'm not a very big gym guy. And we had one show, we were talking about it, and I asked that person to convince me to go to the gym. And I'm not a very big, like, I don't mind, like, football is for me more than going to the gym, lifting weights, stuff like that. I like to be
Oh,
active.
as long as you stay busy, like active, I'd
Yeah,
say.
yeah. So
Everyone has their thing.
yeah, definitely. I want to get
Just don't be a
into.
couch potato. I don't get how people sit on their couch and watch Netflix all night. What a waste of time. To me at least. Is that what
Many,
you do,
it's
Ali, on weekends?
clamoring. Sometimes it depends. It depends. For me, it's not sitting on the couch, but I'm probably on my computer. I'm probably on my computer,
Mm.
getting lost in a world. Either.
Get a standing desk.
Yeah, I should do that. Actually, I should do that. It's definitely much better. Um, and I want to get into your, your love for the gym. And I'm so glad that we have no short answers right off the bat that we just started talking about. It's like
I'm a conversationalist.
it's awesome.
No, but wait, you said you were going to pick on something else in my intro.
I was?
Yeah, you said I want to highlight two things.
Oh yeah, two things. So this is the second thing.
Yeah.
Because you just took
See, I'm paying attention
yeah,
too.
you see, not even the host. The host is someone else. The host has gone on a tangent. No, I mean it's what it's because like you really opened a very nice topic, and I really wanted to, we can speak for hours on it, so that's why I got super into it. And it reminds me of the days in university when we used to be in the dorm. I used to sit with my dorm mates. We used to talk about philosophy, we used to talk about technology, we used to talk about society, all these different things. And I felt like at that time was the time where my, you just mentioned the conversationalist. I think that's where I had the beginnings of something like that. I'm not there yet of being the true conversationalist, but there's, those were the beginnings at that time. So the second thing I wanted to highlight and ask you is, what got you into this field of like being around accelerators, accelerator programs and startups?
Let me try to give you the short answer, because usually I go on a tangent when people ask me that. So I've always been entrepreneurial. I've tried to launch several businesses. One of them I actually launched, but it tanked miserably. Therefore, though I still had this entrepreneurial spirit, all of a sudden I became very risk averse because I had wasted time, money, all that stuff. So how I ended where I am was because I wanted to be around entrepreneurs, but not be an entrepreneur myself. So to kind of leverage the high of risk takers whilst having a comfortable, stable job with the government at the end of the day. But that being said, the company that I work for is a startup. Though it's backed by the government, so there are no like cash flow issues and stuff like that. We are a small team of 4 ladies. The company's 3 years old. I joined 2.5 years in, and we've managed to make the business profitable. So that alone kind of scratches my entrepreneurial itch. But nevertheless, this was kind of how I progressed into working with tech startups.
I think that's awesome. I think it's a nice happy medium or balance between those types of things. I mean, if I were to tell you how I would feel, so for example, like I'm so much into gaming, and then when or even like I'm really like into gaming. I like that world, and I like being part of the creations of it. And then when I started watching esports and I started checking all of that, I started realizing like these guys are playing from very young age, and 26 is the maximum. 26, and you can't be a gamer anymore. You can't be a professional esports. So for me, I'm like, I was like, I can't even be in that position. So
we'll never say can't.
No, I true. I don't have that mentality, but you're right. But for me, I was like saying, even like how you thought of it is, I could always manage a team. I could manage a team and share my insight and be close to them and work with those type of people. That's kind of something that I would, a way to also scratch that kind of itch. So I think, and by the way, your story.
So why don't you do that?
I mean, it's kind of something I talked about now on the fly. I actually never said it before, but it's I don't know. It's just time, and I always have time as the issue, So now at least the focus is on the podcast, and I'm being able to break the excuse of I don't have time. So I'm being able to still do shows and juggling other things at the same time. So, and I think that's okay. I think that's fine, as long as it's happening. If I wasn't doing any shows, I wasn't doing anything, then I would say, it's not good. But I've been able to, I think, good, again, going back to the focus part, I think it's good to, focus on one really, passionate side project at a time. Although my other kind of like, I want to say side project, but my other passion is voiceover. And I found that out very late. I was always looking for something outside of me, like with esports. I was always looking for, okay, I can manage that team, but then I realized that actually with voiceover, that was in me. I don't need anyone else. It's within me. The voice is here. It's the one and the only coming to a cinema near you, So it was just, and I started doing all that stuff, and it became, this was the thing. So you are right. Can't is not the right attitude, definitely. And going back to what you said, how you explained yourself, I would beg to differ and say that you are still an entrepreneur. You're not scratching an itch. You are an entrepreneur. Firstly, I actually had another question that was coming up, but now that you've mentioned this, because I didn't realize that that's how you started with them. But because it's a startup and you said it yourself, you guys turned the company around to make it profitable. You are in fact one of the entrepreneurs of that company, in my honest opinion.
I call myself an intrapreneur, meaning that I don't operate my own venture, but I'm tasked to be entrepreneurial within my existing employment framework.
That's correct. But you did start a business. And I think that's enough to qualify as someone who can be classified as an entrepreneur. That the struggle, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the toughness, the decisions that you have to make.
Late
And
nights,
the
unhealthy late nights.
Exactly. Unhealthy late nights, and the day that passes by and you didn't go to the gym, and then you hate yourself,
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And definitely you'll be in that position, you'll be that position, and you have tasted you have tasted defeat, you have tasted failure. The best thing you can ever taste, honestly, the best lesson that you could ever learn is failure. And the reason I say that is, I never opened a business. Nothing. I had never done anything before, kind of like I could say call my own, like the podcast. And I had never done anything like that before. I went to do a master in Madrid. I went, and that university didn't teach us how to succeed. They taught us how to fail. A very interesting take on things is like, be comfortable with failing. Yeah, it's be comfortable with failing. It's fine if you fail. There's nothing wrong with that. And
so on that note, can I say something interesting I heard yesterday?
Go
So
ahead.
one of my favorite podcasts is a show called How I Built This. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so it's a show that covers stories of entrepreneurs. Now, the host of that show was on the Tim Ferriss show, and I was actually listening to him. His name is Guy Raz on the Tim Ferriss show. Tim Ferriss asked him, what is the single trait that is most common across the hundreds of people you've interviewed for your show? And he said, being comfortable with hearing no. So in essence, like a little mini failure.
Mm-hmm.
And then he reflected that actually a lot of founders that he's interviewed used to be salespeople in some capacity. So in sales, you're taught to go door to door, and whether someone says yes or no, to not let that defeat you. You continue selling. So yes, I absolutely agree with you. It doesn't need to be the end of your business, but even hearing no from clients, investors, customers, internal team members is what a founder will need to go through to make his or her business successul.
Correct.
I hear no in my job as well.
I'm sure you do. Because you're more in it than me, because that's all what your job is. You will be saying no to people, which you also have to be comfortable with. And great entrepreneurs always hire people smarter than them, and those people smarter than them are gonna say no. So imagine that. Imagine your own colleagues, the people you built the company with, coming and telling you no. So I definitely completely agree with you. And I think these are great lessons. I hope anyone who's listening can always take these things and keep them in mind. It's just you're gonna fail, and it's super normal. And once you normalize the concept of failure and you accept that fact that it's gonna happen, success teaches you nothing. If you succeed in the first business round, great, you made it. You're lucky, but what if something happens? You might come crashing down. It happens. Some people are lucky, and it is what it is. But this is the nature of this type of world that we live in. And staying on that topic, I had this question for you, which says, what stimulates you about helping startups? What is the spark within Shireen?
Interesting question.
See the pun that I did there? I actually
Oh no, I saw the pun.
it was not planned. It was not planned. I swear to God, this was not planned. For anyone listening,
By the way,
not plan this. I did not
so
plan
when
this.
I was thinking of names for my podcast, I actually thought of Spark because it resonated with bright minds, ideas. You know, when an idea sparks to mind. I think that actually that's what motivates me in my job is helping founders who really, really, really strongly believe in their business out in some way. Now, the fact is, and it's actually a bit of a sad fact, most of these founders don't make it. So I've become very, very jaded when I hear a startup pitch his or her idea because everyone thinks that they have an amazing opportunity they're going after and that their business model is so innovative and different. And yeah, some of them are, some of them aren't. But even of the ones who are, they stumble upon roadblocks around the way that stop them from growing further. And even though I know that with a lot of my startups, I nevertheless want to help them, the founders as individuals, because they believe in their ideas so greatly that I think, okay, well, if I can help you in some way, then I'm doing some kind of good. And that's also why sometimes in my job, so it's not always the founders themselves who come into contact with me, especially with larger international firms who are looking to expand into the Middle East. They'll get like a marketing person or a salesperson to contact me. I become less, let's say, emotionally attached to the non-founders who reach out to me. And I always find myself wanting to help the founders themselves more. So if you partake in one of my programs and the founder is here, you get like extra little brownie points and exposure and, you know, time from me and things like that.
I think that goes with the fact that you, as a person, you are like an approachable person. You have that humanistic side to you. You see, you have been in that position yourself. Don't forget, you've been in that position yourself, so you can empathize. But at the same time, you have that, human, you have a human feel. You're not just a VC, or you're just not like a company looking at a bunch of young kids and saying, yeah, you know, I won't tell you the answer, but figure it out. And then when you find the answer, you found it, type of
I
thing.
love that you think I have a human feel, given that we've only met virtually. So
Hey,
my virtual persona is very
hey,
approachable, apparently.
if there is one thing I can feel these things, you can feel these things. I'm sure you have a barrier that you put. That's definitely there. I know that. I can feel that. But the fact that you're saying that you want to help the founders, it's part of the drive. First of all, you wouldn't have started a podcast if you don't have that, to be honest, because to be in a podcast is to simply be human. You're spending time with humans,
Mm.
speaking to them and asking them questions and learning and trying to get, as a conversationalist, you need to get things out from that person. You can't do that if you're just somebody who's uninterested in somebody else who's a human. Like, it doesn't work. If you're doing a show and you're just talking about yourself, or you're talking about things, that works. But again, you need to have the other step, and like, you need to speak to people. So
That's true. So I know even as a person, I value my human relationships a lot, especially my friends and family. They would be, let's say, the center point around which my day revolves.
yeah, I think that's great, because you always need the place to vent, the place to talk about the achievements, to people to be on the same level as you. You need to have the safe space that you can go, because you probably don't want to go and speak to these types of things with the founders or the people, although you might feel close to them. I mean, there's things maybe that they don't need to know. And definitely, there was a point that I wanted to touch on. What you said earlier is about, like the founders, what they're going through and stuff like that. At the end, I think what's important to remember is that the fact that you want to help them as individuals, as people, even though you know that the business might not be going anywhere. There's something that I heard very, very recently on, the founder account on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, they have some very nice quotes, and people have saying things. There was one thing that somebody really struck a very nice point. He said, which is something contrary to, maybe what you hear from Gary Vaynerchuk or these other types of people saying, like, you need, which is true, you have to work hard, you're in your 20s, go at it, just work really hard, spend those late nights, get really tired. But this guy, he said something so important. He said, in the end, a business is a business, right? It's an entity. It might die out, and it might just whatever, it'll die out. But you are the person. You are you are a living, breathing human being. The business is nothing without you. So take care of yourself first, and then take care of the business. Not second, but just have that.
It's like on a plane when the oxygen mask comes on, they always say, or they instruct you to put your mask on first before helping others.
I think this is a topic like I could spend.
Have you seen Fight Club, and have you seen
yeah.
That's also what I think every time they instruct that on the plane.
It's crazy. I think it's more like we always, I mean, there's people who really care about others, and they always put others first before themselves. And it's very much also part of my personality, which is not right, by the way. I'm not advocating for that. But what I mean is, take care of I'm not saying take care of anybody else, be respectful of others, but also just don't forget to really, really care about who you are as a person, how you react to things, how you act, and how you just take care of your body. I mean, you are somebody who goes, you value the gym, right? So you already have that mentality on lockdown. You understand that concept. And I think it's very important for entrepreneurs as well, because you can't burn out, right? If you burn out, you're going to make a mistake somewhere. Everybody can't burn out. You need to be on your toes all the time. And it's a tough world. As you said, not many make it. And you need to always be, I don't know how they do it, but you need to always be on your toes, and you're going and you're pitching and you're asking somebody for money. Like, you can't go there and you've spent like 24 hours not sleeping, right? You need to be ready, willing, and able to answer any type of question that these people throw at you. Whether, I mean, not angel investors, but if there's an investor willing to give you their hard-earned money, you need to give them a reason for it. And I think it's very important to remember that you can't burn out. And if you burn out, you'll make a mistake along the way. So, but I'm glad that you brought up this topic, because it really opens that, that side of you, which I think is very important. So that you in a way,
the non-hardcore gym side of me.
Yeah, deadlifts. But I think it's great.
I deadlifted 75 kilos this weekend.
Awesome. That's amazing. I think that's.
But I squat more. I squat 80 kilos.
Awesome.
This isn't a 1 rep max. This is like a strength building thing. But
nice. That's amazing. See,
FYI.
the baby steps. Baby steps. FYI, FYA, Ali. FYA. You next. But I think you are, Shereen is finding the spark in others. And I think that's an amazing way to kind of sum that question up.
I like that. I'm going to quote you. That's wonderful.
That one's for free. That one's for free.
Done. I'll take it.
That was for free.
No royalties.
No royalties. Okay. I think you kind of answered this one. We'll gloss over it quickly. But you've already become an entrepreneur yourself, whether you agree or not, by starting your own podcast. Don't you agree with that? Okay.
Until I monetize my podcast, if I ever do, I wouldn't call it a business, because it doesn't have a P&L, which is kind of the pulse of a business, I would say, the bloodline. So until I monetize it, I consider it to be a hobby. Okay.
I mean, see where I agree and I disagree a little bit, because and actually this is okay. I'm gonna hit you hard with this one, because the way that I think you found out, I mean, when you followed us, or I found out about you, was through our common friend Masa. Okay. And what's interesting was that when we were having that conversation, she was like, oh, you should interview Shereen. She's pretty intense though, but you should interview Shereen. Yeah, I love the laugh. It's perfect. It's perfect.
I used to be her client, by the way. That's why
Okay.
she thinks I'm intense.
Okay. So maybe she meant it like as a person, like you have a lot of, ambitions, which is great. There's this whole thing now that people take being intense as like like an insult. It's not an insult. It's just you are who you are. There's people are at different levels, and that's super normal. Anyway, I wasn't talking about that, but she was like, yeah, you should interview Shireen, and she's doing that, whatever. And we were talking also about like, she was telling me about herself. She was like, yeah, I want to start my own thing, and she's working with startups, but she feels like she wants to start her own thing. I was telling her, yeah, but you'll get there. It's just you have the experience, you have the know-how, you've been around these people. And I was kind of resonating with her and telling her, I mean, it's the same even with me. Like, I want to start my own thing. When I was saying that, she said, no, but you have your podcast. You started something. And then that made me realize that, okay, maybe I don't have to monetize it. That's a requirement. And definitely it'll be better because I can sustain it and all that kind of stuff. But she kind of lit that bulb in me, saying, no, it is, like it's taking up my time. I'm working on it. There's a team, there's designs, there's shows, there's all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't think the same. You should say so.
No, but you're choosing to not monetize it. Or at least for me, I'm choosing to not monetize it yet because I want to kind of hone in my craft. I'm seeing it more as a creative outlet. But it's not a business yet.
Yes.
I can't call it a business until I have revenue coming in, not just
Correct.
Expenses going out.
Correct. I mean, in a formal business jargon, and I'm very much for bending the rules. In that world, yes, maybe that's the case. But I would beg to differ and say you are an entrepreneur. I would beg to.
Well, I will take the compliment. Thank you.
She's just like sitting and compliment. She's just taking 3 quotes, compliments. Yalla, bring more.
Hey, you're giving them out.
Hey, that's what we do on the show. It's just that's what it is. But okay, let's hit you with a big one. What does it entail to operate the Middle East's largest fintech accelerator?
Honestly, the support of the DIFC. So where I work is owned by the DIFC. And when I go to conferences and I say, oh, I work for the government of Dubai, people are like, oh my God, wow. Like, it sells itself. I really, really, really must say. And I think that if I was trying to run an accelerator for a local VC that was not as known internationally, my job would not be as easy as it is. I really, really don't sell hard. Now, I screen very carefully because I have a lot of incoming queries and, expressions of interests, and that's where my real job is. But to answer your question, it's the credibility behind whoever is the owner of the program or the hub or, whatever the accelerator framework really is.
And do you think that your job or where you are being in the IFC, being in Dubai, the fast-paced, especially with startups and all, do you feel that takes a lot out of you? Like, is it a demanding job?
It's actually not fast-paced at all. It's quite slow. So though a startup will operate fast, the government doesn't operate fast. So I actually need to give everyone a reality check and say, guys, Middle East culture, chai culture, shui shui culture, I actually need to help them see that they need to remove their foot from the accelerator pedal a little bit.
But how do they take that? Because they're like, they might be bleeding cash, or they're like, we have to launch at this stage. How do you let's say balance the emotion within that?
They have to deal with it. They have to
simply.
deal with it. Yeah, simply. So what I always tell them is keep the relationship going. The other thing I always recommend is set a recurring call or meeting. I'm less likely to miss giving you an update as my prospect client if the call or meeting is already in my calendar versus having to reach out every week and
Mm-hmm.
rescheduling and so on and so forth. It's just the fact of doing business here compared to more developed places from a startup capital point of view, like Silicon Valley, New York, London, Singapore, even.
Okay, I think like this definite balance. I think it's very much needed. I mean, it's good sometimes to, regroup and have a look and maybe not jump too much. Maybe that's probably why in those developed countries there's I don't know how the failure rate is. Again, I'm reaching into places which I have no clue, but I would think that there it's probably the way that I'm thinking is more fast paced, just jump in and do it, and like people just jump and it's just like it's a whole mess of different things and people make it, don't make it. So I think the balance of having somebody who's the drive, the entrepreneurial drive, but at the same time having the guidance of very like light-footed guidance of take it a little
Yeah.
bit slower, I think is
I would say what the startups face more than speed of execution is the ability to be nimble and agile as team members. So you may be an employee of a startup or a co-founder doing everything from finance to HR to admin to business development. That you cannot get away from. And that is the same all across the world. As a startup, you need to be a small, nimble team. Now, the pace of execution differs from country, from industry. That is what varies. And that, I would say, regionally, is a little bit of a tortoise in the race. But hey,
yeah,
slow and steady sometimes wins the race.
of course. And again, this is very well put. Definitely, I think that's it's a very good way to kind of sum that up, because again, I think the balance is very important. It's neither too fast, neither too slow. The balance between the two is the way that we go, I think, is great.
Some people say things like regulation kill innovation. So people tell me this all the time because I work with startups in the finance field, and finance is very heavily regulated. But I actually always beg to differ. I say, hey, listen, the laws are there to protect you. I'd rather they be there and my money be safe than give my money to a risky company that does not do their due diligence properly, and then maybe I lose my money one day. So I'm not the biggest fan of going fast. I don't think that you need to scale incredibly to be a successful business. There are other ways you can be a successful business.
Correct. I think this is also where probably entrepreneurs should look, and to make the difference that, it's not about only the revenue, it's not about the bottom line. But if we're going to get into this topic and we're going to get into finance and regulation and the
Let's
greed
talk
and
about
all
the
that, let's talk about the gym. Let's do that. I want to talk about the gym next. I honestly do. And I want to talk, I will have one question for you for the gym, and then we'll go back to the podcasting. Then we'll jump into our discussional topics. So
All right.
yeah, so is working out, I think you already answered it, but let's probably ask you more directly. So is working out something you simply like to do outside of work, or is it a passion, or is it like this is like, you have your work maybe, and this is your way, this is your zen zone. Shireen is now in the zone. I am now khalas. This is me.
I wouldn't say it's my Zen zone, nor would I call it a passion. But saying I like the gym is too light. I love the gym. I really, really, really love the gym. But I do go through phases in my life where gym is a priority and other phases where gym has fallen down my priority bracket. I wouldn't identify as someone who has gone to the gym for her entire life. Going back to the relationship part that we talk about, if I was to describe myself, I'd say I was someone who loves my friends and family, and I love relationships and I hang out with them. Now, I also go to the gym. I happen to be talking a lot about it with you today because I'm in that phase where I go every day, like literally every day.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't call it my Zen state because it's actually a place that I find challenging. Zen state is like, I don't know, me doing emails or hanging out with my friends and chilling. That is I'm relaxed and, The gym is freaking challenging. Like, I go there to die, like to kill myself and revive, basically, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't
No,
call
no.
it Zen.
No, because the reason I say that is some people like, because I'm just trying to contrast you know, like, because when I saw you sent me a picture, right? When I saw
Yeah, but
it,
I was deadlifting, not
you
doing yoga.
true,
That
true,
picture.
but no, but see, people would beg to differ. They would say like, you know, I'm in the zone when I am like lifting, you know, whatever
In
it
the
is.
zone, but not Zen.
But some people, they have this state of mind, they feel like they're in, you know, like harmony. And I just felt like when you sent me that photo, I saw you were like, you were smiling.
I'm smiling in that
You were
photo,
smiling,
yeah.
and she's like deadlift. If you put me in that photo, okay, let's just take a step back. If I was in that photo lifting what you were lifting, I would be, I don't know, I would have the worst type of
So look,
face
I must
ever.
say though, and I'm not just saying this because I happened to send you a photo of me smiling doing deadlifts, but I didn't know someone was taking photos of me. That was my genuine expression
Well, you see, there you
doing those
go.
deadlifts.
Because it looks like you were really posing and you were looking somewhere else, and now you're telling me it was. You're not helping your
But
case.
I must say, I think that, okay, so that photo was taken in a competition. And I think the
Okay.
deadlift was the first part of the last workout. So it was, and actually from that same sequence of what I had to do, the last thing I had to do was rowing. If you see
Oh
photos of
yeah.
me rowing,
Oh yeah.
I look like death. So, I'm not smiling in those rowing photos.
But this thing, you know, I'm just reacting to the photo, and I think that was it. Really gave me this. It gave me this because I looked at it and I formulated the question. I was like, "Damn, she loves the gym." You know,
I
she's
do love the
that
gym.
like it's like I felt it's like your place. But yeah, I think
No, but I genuinely go there to challenge myself. And if I feel anything short of breathless, panting, about to faint, I feel like I did not gym hard enough. Like it was time not well spent commuting to and from the gym.
oh my god. Okay. Well, you
This is
know who
why
to
Masa says I'm intense.
you know who to work out with, guys. That's very much
By
so.
the way, on that note, I work out with my brother. So I go to the gym with him.
Okay. Okay.
And we work out together. And some of my favorite workouts to do are actually like partner WODs. So when you have a teammate and you challenge and pace each other. Because again, I love my relationships. I love the people in my life. I just want to kind of integrate them in the other hobbies that I have.
That's great. Always, you should have always a gym buddy. It's definitely, it's very much the person to push you, and whether it's in a business or whether it's in the gym or whether it's cooking or whether it's biking, any type of activity, always a buddy is
So
super
speaking of
important.
cooking is what puts me in Zen.
Oh,
When I
okay,
cook, my mind transports in this peaceful place. Yes, that is something I would say gives me Zen.
fine. Okay, so we've identified it then. Great.
Mm.
And this definitely I think it's a very great outlet, honestly, to be able to cook and to be able to serve and to be able to give, you know, this effort that you put to somebody, and then the joy of seeing them enjoy that food, I think is definitely, I mean, that's something that I would strive to. Like I really like food and I would really like to cook. I think that's what I would aim for. I would aim for someone. That's what I like to see, is like I do something, even when I do barbecue or something, which is super normal. If I do that and I see somebody really like enjoying it, I'll say, yeah.
Okay, so when am I invited to one of your barbecues?
Anytime. I haven't done one in a long time, but anytime.
Once you leave Abu Dhabi.
For sure. Once I leave the island. So this show will air and I would have left the island. So this will be backdated. So definitely it'll be there soon.
Awesome.
Okay. About the podcast. Why did you decide now, after 10 years within your career, to do 10 plus years of your career, did you just feel like now is the right time to start this podcast?
COVID. Man, I had a
Oh,
lot of free time. And
COVID made me do
and
it.
and I'm not the kind of person who sits around and watches Netflix. Okay, no, so genuinely, I've been consuming podcasts for the last 9 years, I would say.
Wow.
I never had a desire to want to do it, but during lockdown, my consumption of podcasts went up dramatically. I was like just constantly going out for walks and listening to podcasts. Walks in areas I was allowed to walk in. And I remember during lockdown, Joe Rogan sold his show to Spotify, or rather, Spotify acquired the rights to stream his shows exclusively on their platforms. And I thought, man, I love chatting to people, and people think I'm a really good conversationalist. Why don't I chit chat and record it? And hey, since I have time, I can teach myself editing and, recording and learn the process and all that. So that's what made me want to go into podcasting. Now, the topic and why is the podcast about startups and tech and innovation? That's because it's what I do. And I realized that honestly, in the last 2 years, my LinkedIn has been bombarded. All kinds of people reach out to me just because they're curious. They want to know what I do. Either they're bankers and they want to know what startups are like, or they're startups and the founders just, want 5 minutes for some advice. I started realizing, hey, people actually think that I'm an expert. And if I am, maybe they will tune in if I have a medium where I not necessarily share my own expertise, but use my conversational abilities to pull expertise out of experts and present them in an easy to digest manner. Now, I must say, by the way, when I record an episode, I talk for an hour, but I crop the episode down to 15, 20 minutes without the intro and outro. And that's because I genuinely want it to be full of nuggets of information. So where your show actually wants to capture the human side and the chit chat and all that, I want to crop all that out in my show.
Clearly, we're on two ends of the spectrum.
You tune in and it's like fact. So that's kind of what I'm striving for.
It's a style. Like there's people who need that. The people who need this thing. They need they're going to work maybe 20 minutes. Maybe they have an interview they're going to do, or they have like something to present. They need that. It's definitely, they're not going to sit and listen to me ramble for an hour, right? So about doing a voiceover about like a show or something. It's it's different for you. It's very much, this is the facts, this is the hard facts, and this is what you need to do, and this is the hard truth. And I think the hard truth is really good. Sells well. Yes. It depends. It depends. I take
on
that
what
back.
You're selling.
Exactly. I take that back. Take that back. But I think it's great. I mean, it's great the way that you could do that. So I think it's it's great. It's awesome. And I want to ask you. For me, for example, in COVID, I taught myself how to edit. So I could help my co-partner edit the videos and do all of that kind of stuff. At least it was something that was so intimidating for me to do. I would look at the video editing software and I go like, I can never do this. And
what software did you learn to use?
DaVinci Resolve.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but it's not one of the more recommended ones. So I didn't look into it further.
I mean, it's quite straightforward and it's free. Well, there's a free version, and which doesn't use all the cores apparently of your computer. Thanks, Alex, for pointing that out. But basically, I mean, it was something that I could use, and I saw him use it, and the interface is basically the same, right? But in the end, it's like whether you're Mac or PC, or you're gonna get around to using it, and like I'm kind of, I know Mac a bit and I know PC a bit, but whatever, I'm again going back to the first things we're talking about, and I am a tech person, so I can get around to it. My challenge was being able to formulate the vision in my mind of what the video should look like. How do I piece it together? Do I put this behind? Do I put it after? I wouldn't know how to cut and where to cut, and I would get so confused.
That's why you use that software. So I use Adobe Audition, which is purely sound. That's because my podcast is just an audio podcast. That's why I'm unfamiliar with your tool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But the amazing thing about DaVinci Resolve is that it has a completely separate tab, especially just for audio. So everything is built within it. Yeah. So and it follows the natural process of, editing. You put your media in, you start editing, you want to do touch-ups with the, with the coloring, you want to do some effects and all that, and then you start to work on your audio, and then you deliver it. So it has that natural process, and I like things to be like, don't teach me something that is 7 steps later. Just tell me the beginning, and I'll just go, here and there. And I think, again, going to what you said, like COVID made me do it. I removed the intimidation of it, and that we just, I just put myself in it, and kind of did that. And I wanted to ask you, what are the challenges that you face as like a podcaster, like either starting out or what you're currently facing, all that kind of stuff?
It's not so much about the podcast, but more about my time management. So I launched the podcast hoping it would be weekly, simply because of the amount of time it requires. It's ended up being bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. That's because alongside the podcast, I have a full-time job. I'm undertaking a full-time master's. I go to the gym every day. So there's a lot going on intensely. And mind you, I do everything on the podcast. I do my own editing. I create the marketing collateral. I'm the host. I do the recordings. It's ended up being a full-time job. And to be able to do it whilst kind of taking care of myself and my own health and, cooking, gymming, sleeping on time, I've had to come to terms with the fact that my release frequency is not what I think is optimal. And going back to your point earlier where you asked me if this is a business or not, I really think if I do want to make it a business one day, I need to be able to produce it weekly. So accepting the fact that I simply can't do it weekly is also me kind of accepting the fact that for now, this is more of a hobby than a business.
True.
Which there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of realizing things.
But if I were to challenge your point, because we have been through quite the same, me and Alex, I would like to say that don't always think. So, for example, you're saying that weekly is the goal, right? Don't think that weekly means that then you're doing it the right way. Just remember that. And Alex told me a very important thing. He told me, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And it makes so much sense, because when we first started doing the show and we started posting episodes, it took a really long time for me to come to terms with the fact that I'm going to start recording shows. And I wanted things to be perfect, and I wanted, this to be this guest and this time, and it has to be weekly and all that. Along the way, it's going to be difficult. Don't let weekly be your target. If it's bi-weekly, it's bi-weekly. And that's how it is. It doesn't mean you can make a business out of it if it's bi-weekly. What's more important is for you to be consistent. And the reason I say that is that because that will transcend not just the podcast, will transcend anything that you do. And being consistent is key. And that comes actually from Dukkan Media, from Omar Tom. I remember I went to the first podcast forum 2 years ago, and I really liked what he said. He's like, we were struggling at the beginning, and then we started being consistent, and being consistent is key. That's more important than frequency. You need to be consistent. Like, get people on a schedule. If you change it, you change it. Adi. I say adi. And if just as long as you're consistent with your goal, you stick to your goals, and you're releasing an episode every once in a while, I think it's great. And that's my advice. Don't try to chase that thing that's on the pedestal, that the weekly show, or like, it should be making me money right now, and all these kind of things. I mean, that's my advice, because I think like the more I try to push, and the more that I try, I also, my full-time job is also challenging. It's demanding. And I'm a person like, I'll spend a lot of time playing video games. I'll spend a lot of time doing stuff that I want to do. And I also have times where I spend a lot on the podcast. I don't balance my time well, and I'm aware of that. But when it comes to, comes to the show, as long as I can get into the momentum and the swing of things, and I set myself to say, we say we're going to do like a weekly show or whatever it is, then it's great. I just think that's my advice, because coming from, the struggles that we had, there's always like, there's times where I simply can't do it, or I have no motivation. Same thing with Alex. A couple of years ago, it was tough. We couldn't, and at that time he was editing, so it's difficult, and you're going to come across these things. And I just think just don't be too hard on yourself in this matter. Don't, because you need, again, like going back to what I said, the founder is the important person. You need to, give yourself the space, and you'll become more creative. And I think what I realize is, if I so like deep digging into something, even with work, like there's this email, I really need to write it, and how am I going to write it, and I don't know how to formulate it. Just take a step back. I go somewhere, even when I'm writing questions for a show, maybe I leave, and as soon as I leave, I think of something to ask the guest. I have to run back to write the question. It's just sometimes the nature of things. If you're so focused on it, is great, but sometimes you need to give that outside perspective. And that's what Alex gave me. He's like, stop over analyzing. Just record the show. Just record it. Just do the show. Why are you always over analyzing? And it changes. If I never did that, I wouldn't be here like however many shows in, like more than 30 episodes. It would just be one of those things, right? So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you for the words of wisdom.
So I think maybe people zoned out, but watch it back. Just watch it back. Watch it back, guys. Watch it back.
How much of this are you going to edit out, by the way?
I don't know. This is an amazing show. I don't think it should be edited. This is just awesome.
Oh no!
This is an amazing show. Alex, if you're watching this, you have some work to do, buddy. But it's an awesome show. I mean, I think it's amazing. But like, to not make it too long, let's get into your topics, and maybe I want to be conscious of your time as well, because it's already been very long.
Do you want to talk about the virtual events another time?
We could do that.
Because that'll be like at least a half an hour discussion.
Yeah. I'm
use of it,
True. We can do that. Oh, then in that case, let me ask you the last final 2 questions, which are related to the podcast, and then. But I really wanna do it again, so we should.
This time next week, 9:30 next week.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Done.
Yeah, done.
This time I'll send you a link.
Yes.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, and you record it this time. You record.
I will record it.
You record. You edit. Oh my God. Okay.
Done.
Let's do this. Okay, so here we go. I did have a question. Okay, I have 2 questions for you. Okay, and because you're a podcaster yourself, what do you think? And I it's everybody knows I love to ask the question. What do you think of the name Nobody's Famous?
So I was actually, okay, so when I first heard of it, I thought, when Masa first told me the name of your show, I thought, oh, wow, how cute. Real conversations about real people. Okay. And then just this morning, actually, when I was in my mind planning my day, and I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Adi later today. I thought, but do I want to appear on a show that says Nobody's Famous? Is that going to make me look good or not? But ultimately, the name aside, I think it's very interesting to capture the humans behind the stories. And I love that you've been so personable with the questions that you've been asking me. So ergo, I think the name matches the show. You just need to listen to the show to kind of understand the name.
Okay, that I was gonna ask you, why did you think that? But now I understand, because I think, yes, you're right. The name kind of might be a little bit misleading, also because of the apostrophe of S. It's like nobody is famous. And then people would tell me, oh, you can't get that famous person on your show. You can't get famous people, and I'm like telling them, no, that's not the point. I would love to have a famous person on the show, because that's actually the point. That's more the point than me getting somebody who's not famous, because the whole point is for me to normalize the concept of fame. And if I get somebody famous, they come and they sit on the show, we have an amazing talk, and, we chat about it, and you'll just realize that they're like a human, just like me and you, and they have the same fears, they have the same problems, they have the same solutions, they have the same adventures. And yes, it might be, Brian May from Queen, you never know, but it's like there's always there's always this commonality between things, and I think we live in this world where fame and being famous and being a celebrity and having millions of followers is such a thing now that it really drowns out people who are really saying things that are meant to be heard, or people who are trying to make a difference, or people who are just trying to say something very simple, and just as simple as whatever it is, a simple thing, and they don't get heard because we have this prejudice that if they don't have many people listening to them, then what they say is not worth listening to. God damn. So it's just like,
No, absolutely. I agree with you.
It's, yeah.
No, I agree with you. Let me tell you something actually I personally struggled with when launching the podcast. So firstly, actually, let's kind of rewind. When thinking of the name, I loved Spark. But then when I shared it with my brother and I asked for his opinion, he said, you got to add your name somewhere. The Joe Rogan Show is the Joe Rogan Show. The Tim Ferriss Show is the Tim Ferriss Show. Even Will Smith, when he made Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, named the character Will Smith, because that's how people will come to know you. So I thought, okay, then Spark with Shereen. Then when it came to designing the album cover, I was like, oh, well, Shereen, I guess, has got to be on the album cover.
For sure.
And by the way, I'm a very private person. So though I'm very outgoing and I'm an extrovert, I'm very private. So pre-Spark with Shereen, you wouldn't find anything about me online. Like I didn't want to be famous. But in making a show that is in podcast format, I began to realize that actually people may come for the content, but they stay for the host.
Exactly.
So you need to make yourself at least impressionable to your audience for them to keep coming back. Now, even if you look at, I don't know, if you go to like our Instagram and you go to the first few posts, you won't see my face. I've started to include videos of me and my guests, at least as promo, because I started realizing, okay, for a show that's called Spark with Shereen, Shereen doesn't really appear anywhere.
Shireen's not there. Where is Shereen?
Shereen's not there. Other than on the album cover, she's not there.
Where
and
is
that's
Shereen?
not even her real face. It's like a character.
Yeah.
So I've started to have to make myself okay being recorded and filmed and put places and stuff like that. But by all means, do I not think that I don't have anything valuable to say? I do. I like to think so because it's my job to have valuable things to say. But I used to be very comfortable not being famous doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very great transition. We caught you at the best time. And I think that what you're doing is the right path. I mean, I was told that before you even said it. Like, basically, when we did the first season or the second season, people were saying, you need to speak more because people in the end, yes, they'll come and they watch your show, but they will stay for the host. They want to hear more from you. So what you're doing is completely correct. And I definitely, encourage you to keep going, keep doing that. And, if you go to our Instagram, it's the same. I mean, I'm there, we introduce the team, my face is there, the guest's face is there. We're talking, laughing, all that stuff. Again, it's you should really consider that and keep pushing it. And you made the choice to put your name in the show. So, hey, if you're not selling yourself to, people are going to be listening. Yeah, but I came for Shereen. She's not here, So it's, definitely.
She's at the gym.
She's at the gym, but she's doing podcasts now. It doesn't like, you need to really have you need to, again, sell what you're, be what you're selling. For us, we kind of stayed away from that because, I mean, we wanted to, it's a statement. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle kind of thing. So it's a bit different. It's not supposed to be just a podcast. I mean, it's a show in the end. It's a podcast, but it's a show. It's a way of life, and there's some ideas and concepts that will be coming very soon, hopefully.
Ooh, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. I mean, you're already, on the new logo and everything, so that's amazing. And so definitely, it's that kind of feel. So for you, people wanna also. You should be speaking. You will be speaking more. As you progress. That's people will want that more. You'll see that people will say, yeah, but we want to hear more about you, Shereen. That you started this not so we can only listen to others. We want to listen to you. So
I've already realized, and I've started leaving my own snippets of thoughts and insights.
Perfect. The final question for
Bring it.
We can close it off. Bring it. Not in my Zen zone. Is Do you have a question for me?
Oh, I didn't come prepared.
They never are. Don't worry.
Where are you from?
Where am I from? I am from Lebanon, but I've lived all my
Okay.
life in the UAE. I studied in Lebanon and I studied in Spain. But very much so, I would call Abu Dhabi my home. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, although, I've been to Lebanon all the summers, and the time I spent there also felt like home. But, it's, we probably won't have to get into that existential crisis kind of thing right now. But yeah, I am from Lebanon.
Okay, interesting. Where you're from is something everyone gets asked in the UAE. It's just people really identify in a land of expats, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's we talked about it in one of the episodes. It's a third culture kid thing. It's, you're here in a place where you identify with so many expats, yet your home is really somewhere else. But you don't really fit with also your parents, and you don't really fit in the place that you're in, and all this different type of stuff.
So personally, I don't understand what it's like to be a third culture kid, even though most millennials in the UAE consider themselves third culture kids. And that's because I'm a Bahraini who grew up in Bahrain with two Bahraini parents, and I very much identify with a country and nothing but a country. So it's a very strange phenomenon where people
Awesome.
try to explain to me, oh, but my mom is from here and my dad's from here, but I was born here and I lived here for half my life, and they're the other. It's weird to me.
No, I think you're right. It's very it's a topic that can go on for ages, and my parents are Lebanese. Our family is like also Lebanese, but mixed, like mixed and stuff. It's more. I mean, we had this discussion the other time, but it's more about identifying yourself within the space you're in, and really, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the guest. Tariq Barada, he really touched on this concept. It's like, why do you have to call it an identity crisis? Why is it a crisis? Like it's just you discovering, and there's nothing wrong with, the third culture kid it's just a term. Like it's a term, like saying social media. It's just a term. Yani, why do you have to label yourself like that? Yeah, I can label myself, but doesn't mean that when I introduce myself to people and say, hi, where are you from? I'm a third culture kid. Like it's not like,
Well, see, I asked you where you're from, and you said one country.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
begin with, you said I'm
Exactly.
Lebanese.
Exactly. And again, I don't want to go into all of this stuff. It will go on for ages, but this is all part of how you identify, and language, and where you're from, and where you were brought up, and all this different stuff, so it's a very interesting. I didn't think the question would end up that way, but
Yeah, I kind of opened up Pandora's box with that last question.
Which is amazing. It's amazing. That's what we're all about, just open up another topic, so yeah, it's good. But
Ali, we do have another topic to talk about, and I'll see you next week. Let's talk about that.
Yes, we will. And Shireen, I want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I've had an amazing time. It's been, 2 hours on the dot. It's actually, no, an hour and a half, sorry. And it's been amazing. And I really, really appreciate you coming on the show and having this chat with me.
I've had a wonderful time. And I really hope for whoever's listening, they have a wonderful time. And for Alex, who'll be editing.
Oh my God. Nice one. Slip it in there, Here you go. Please find the WeTransfer file below, So thank you, Shireen. I want to sign us off. Any last words?
I look forward to seeing the show.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Shireen, for being with us on the Nobody's Famous podcast. This has been another amazing episode with Shireen, the host of Spark with Shireen. Check her out. It's amazing. Get all your entrepreneurial tips and quips any time of the day in her podcast. You can find her on, I'm going to guess here, right? So Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and
Not SoundCloud,
Not
actually.
SoundCloud. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But
But you were right with Spotify and Stitcher and Rami, Apple Podcasts, all those.
All that stuff except SoundCloud. So yeah, and then you can find us, Nobody's Famous Podcast, on SoundClouds and Stitcher and Rami. You can watch this on YouTube. Make sure you don't watch us while driving, and it's going to be an awesome show. I thank you so much, Shereen. This has been the Nobody's Famous Podcast. Signing off.